right, it's a Wednesday edition of Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Everlight Solar Studio, downtown Madison. Back in Madison. Good to be back for the first time in like a week, obviously with the holidays, but good to be back with you. A lot of stuff to get to. Kyle Wallace, Kyle Bruston Nortman on ESPN Wisconsin and Green Bay Game Day, my co-host on Sundays, is going to join us in a bit just to talk all things Packers. I haven't caught up with him in a few weeks. He was on vacation. Obviously we had the holidays in between there too, so I haven't caught up with him on some of the Packers' recent wins. So I want to get his take and kind of dive into where we're at on the Packers. Because look, I always admit this. I'm overreactionary. I very much am. If you've listened to the show for a while, you know this about me. I either think it's doomsday or we should throw a parade, depending on what happens on Sunday the following Monday. I need a couple of sleeps to, take myself away from the action and really dive into it. And so how I'm feeling on Wednesday with the Packers is they're good, I think. I think they might be playoff good. So we'll get into that with Kyle Wallace momentarily. But what I want to start the show with today, before we get to Aaron Rodgers and Braelon Allen, is producer Hunter Vaughn, who's always with us. Little ornery today. First time I've seen you in a week. You screamed at me about 5 minutes into it. What's on your mind, buddy?
I didn't scream at you because I was mad at you going into it.
Yeah.
What happened was back on Saturday, producing ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day.
Had some issues.
Yep. There was an issue with an ad that didn't play. And at the time that it popped up, I didn't have time to dig into it. So I'm like, oh yeah, I've just got to remember to bring it up to Strouf and Ryan and, just make sure people are aware that was an issue, but it wasn't a big deal. So then I explained it to both of you and Ryan at the same time. And I tell you, hey, it popped up. It wasn't going to play. I just got rid of it, and I didn't dig any further into it. You guys then asked me follow-up questions to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, again, it just wouldn't play. I wasn't going to dig into it. That's all I have for you. I don't know what else. You then asked me more follow-up questions.
Yeah, I was curious what happened.
To which then I finally had to yell at both of you like children and say, I do not know what happened. It would not play. I didn't look any further into it. And you're shocked that I'm mad at you because I have to repeat things.
Well, yeah,
before the two of you listened to me.
I figured you would have been happy to see me is all. And
I am happy to see
no.
you.
Four
times
no. Cut it off there. No. I know. You would have acted happy to see me, but it took about 4.5 minutes to scream at me louder, may I add, than you have ever screamed at me just for asking one simple follow-up question, which in your retelling of that story, you added in the detail that you didn't tell me the first go round. So I was a little bit surprised by your ornery nature today. A little surprised by that.
You don't listen to me. And then you asked me the same question 3 times, and I told you, I don't know. I didn't look into it.
So you weren't happy to see me?
I was happy to see you. I wasn't happy to get asked the same question 4 times in a row. And now you're making me mad again. I'm about to yell at you the same way I did again, because you don't listen to me.
So I don't know I don't think Hunter caught on to the bit there. I asked you 4 times if you were happy to see me.
And I'm letting it go because I want to just go across the room and punch you in the face right now, but I'm not going to do that.
I would recommend against that in a work setting, but I understand the frustration. You
drive me crazy.
Yeah, most people have that opinion, but I appreciate you all hanging out with us. All right, we're good. The fumes are cleared. You feel good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're good.
Right.
I got that off my chest.
I feel good. 2 things I want to get into. 2 things. Thank you. Appreciate that. Happy to see you as well. 2 things I want to get into prior to Kyle Wallace joining us in a moment to talk Packers. 2 unrelated Packers notes, although Aaron Rodgers semi-related to the Packers. This is fresh news. It just came out like 20 minutes ago. Head coach Robert Saleh saying they have activated Aaron Rodgers in the 21-day practice window, essentially. So within the next 3 weeks, Aaron Rodgers needs to be pushed up back to the active roster, I believe down to the injured reserve. So he has 21 weeks essentially to practice, or 21 days rather, essentially to practice. And he will make the decision whether or not he will make his triumphant return following tearing his Achilles in week number 1 on a national spotlight. So I was thinking about how I want to message this, and I really don't think it's that complicated. I think it's as simple as this. The Jets stink. You're not saving their season, right? Aaron Rodgers, great quarterback when healthy. But let's remember, he has not played a snap of football since the snap he tore his Achilles in early September. he would not return until at earliest early December, if not mid-December. The the New York Jets, rather. I'm still getting this all straightened out. The New York Jets, 4-7 on the year. Their schedule not particularly easy because they play in the AFC East, which has a good team in the Miami Dolphins and a questionably good team in the Buffalo Bills, and obviously the New England Patriots. Just a game behind the New York Jets in last place of the AFC East. The Jets aren't making the playoffs unless they win out, is the way I view it in that AFC. They should win this Sunday, but nothing is a gimme when Tim Boyle is your starting quarterback. I love a good laser show. Packers legend Tim Boyle. He's not good at football. They play the Atlanta Falcons, who are 5-6 this week. Next week, they host the Houston Texans. Good football team. Then they play the Dolphins in Miami. Those are 3 games they might not win any of if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. And even if Aaron Rodgers plays, I don't think their chances become that much better. 79 days after he tore his Achilles, Robert Saleh saying that Aaron Rodgers back in the practice window. I don't think we'll see Aaron Rodgers. And if we do, it is a really bad business decision by the New York Jets, who put a lot of stock into bringing Aaron Rodgers to New York. It's a bad decision. So we will see, but interesting story. I kind of thought a lot of what he was saying was BS throughout the weeks, and I don't listen to his appearances on Pat McAfee now that he's not a Green Bay Packer. I just don't care to listen to him. I care to listen to a player that has not played since week 1. Just not my cup of tea, especially if he's not my quarterback. I don't think he's coming back. I would be very intrigued if he proves me wrong. I just don't think he'll have a reason to come back. All right, last thing before we get to Kyle. Braelon Allen designates his slot in the 2024 NFL draft. Braelon Allen foregoing his final year of eligibility at the University of Wisconsin next year, and will go in the NFL draft after a weird year for him. Obviously, injuries. You lose your complimentary piece in Chez Mellusi in week 4 of the season. You deal with your own injuries in kind of a weird year in a new offense. So Braelon Allen was looked at, I think, heading into the season as probably, if not the top, one of the top running back prospects for the 2024 NFL draft. But if anything happened this year, his stock did slide. I do think Braelon Allen's game can translate to the NFL level. I just don't know if it can translate to Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon levels. I think he can be a nice complementary piece in the NFL, which interests me because I don't really know where his stock is. Number one, it's a little bit early to be evaluating mock drafts in terms of where players are going that are not bona fide first-round picks, which Braelon Allen is not. I would guess he's probably a late day 2, early day 3, so round 3, round 4 guy. But that's the way the running back position has been going, right? He might have an opportunity to start as a round 3 or round 4 pick now in today's NFL. So all in all, this is the correct decision by Braelon Allen, despite the draft stock. Don't risk injury. Go get your contract. Get to the next level. Achieve your goals. He's going to have the opportunity to do that here in 2024. So I'm happy for the guy. He was an awesome running back during his time as Wisconsin. He busted onto the scene as a 17-year-old stud. He's only 19. He was born in 2004. He won't turn 20 until January. It's a fun story. So I'm happy for Braelon Allen. Excited to see what happens with him as he enters the 2024 NFL draft. All right, that's the Badgers note. That's the Rodgers note. Let's talk Packers. Let's do it all with our buddy Kyle Wallace from Kyle Bruston Nortman. Kyle Wallace joins us next. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. All right, our conversation with our buddy Kyle Wallace, as always, brought to you by my friends at Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. I was telling you on Monday that cherry brandy with the old fashions, we got into it on Thanksgiving a little bit, had a little bit of the award-winning bourbon as well. They've got all sorts of great stuff if that's not your style, whether it's Rock Island rum, whether it's the vodka, whether it's that beautiful bottle of gin, whatever you need, whatever you want, Door County Distillery has you covered, and they do it better than anybody else. Check out their website, doorcountydistillery.com, to find the retailer nearest you, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes that's on their website, doorcountydistillery.com. Let's chat to our buddy Kyle Wallace from Kyle Bruston Nortman. All right, everybody. Kyle Wallace joins us now on Mr. Irrelevant. You hear Kyle alongside Ben Brust and Brad Nortman on Kyle, Brust, and Nortman across ESPN Wisconsin, 2 to 5 weekdays. You also hear him with me on Green Bay Game Day before every Green Bay Packers game on our network of 620 WTMJ and ESPN Wisconsin. We'll talk Packers in a minute, but we were just talking before we pressed record, Kyle. You said you don't get Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I don't understand the whole we love Taylor Swift. Is it the lyrics? Is it the beat? It can't be the dance moves. And like she could sing, but she can't sing. You know what I'm saying? Like Carrie Underwood, she can sing. You know what I'm saying? Like Taylor Swift is just like, she can sing. Okay, she has a good voice. There's a lot of people in the choir that have a good voice.
Okay, so I get that point. I think the showmanship and I think the lyricism are the two gimmies for Taylor Swift, who might be in Green Bay on Sunday, by the way.
Oh, she'll be there. What is the showmanship? What do you mean by showmanship? What showmanship does she do?
Obviously, she's taken the world by storm this year with the Eras Tour. And she performs like 3 hours straight, no breaks. I think that's appreciated. She's been a superstar for what now? Like 15 years. So she's got banger after banger. I think she's got some great music, Kyle. I think you're just being naive.
I'm not being naive. I mean, she has good music, but I guess for me, so Beyonce. I wasn't a big Beyonce fan until she had the Homecoming Netflix thing where I actually got to watch it and got to see the artistry and then heard the melodies and the mixture of the music and got to hear her voice by itself without music. And I was like, dang, that girl can blow. And so then I gained her appreciation. I went to the Renaissance tour and I saw that and I got to, I went to Vegas, saw the Renaissance tour and it was good. Like she performed very well. She has some really good songs, but again, I can appreciate real dancing and real performing, but also somebody that has the vocals. And I just feel like Taylor Swift lacks in the dancing and lacks in the actual vocals. Like you never hear her hit that. No, you're like, damn, that girl hit that one. I've never heard anybody say that about Taylor Swift. I just hear people say, oh my gosh, she's talking about some boy that she broke up with a decade ago. And so that's my only thing. I'm not saying she's not good. I'm just saying I just don't get all the hoopla around her.
So you clearly do not appreciate a good breakup anthem. I think that's where you're lacking. You need a good breakup anthem. That's when she's your girl, T Swizzle.
Is this FCC or can I say something?
Say whatever you want.
Listen, I love these hoes. So I'm not gonna sit here and be all upset and listen to a breakup type of album and think it's something nice.
Fair enough. I guess I won't argue with that. Breakups are sad, and breakup music is typically sad. But like she makes the breakup like bad B music, right? So like I Forgot That You Existed, which is my number 7 song, by the way, this year in my Apple Music recap. I Forgot That You Existed by Taylor Swift.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a try. I do like Bad Blood, but it has Kendrick Lamar in it.
Correct.
Like it has a good beat, but like some of the songs are good. I'm not saying she doesn't make good music, but she doesn't make world tour. This great person, Taylor Swift, people standing outside of, the stadium just to hear Taylor Swift. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's fair. All right. I didn't anticipate having a Taylor Swift argument to kick off the show, but you also said something about her that I need to go back to. You were pretty definitive when I said she might be at Lambeau Field on Sunday. Why do you believe she'll be there?
I got my sources. I may have my sources.
Well, is that real or are you just guessing?
Strouf, have I ever made anything up? Like, I give a lot of opinions, but a lot of my opinions are based off facts and passion. And so I wouldn't just randomly say she's going to be there. I may have found out that Taylor Swift is supposed to be there. I don't know if she 100% will be there, but what I have been told is that.
Wait a minute.
Well, because things could change. But what I do know is that Green Bay should be on Taylor Swift watch because the expectation is that she will be there.
All right. From our number 1 reporter in the field, Kyle Wallace,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift intends to be at the Kansas City Chiefs Green Bay Packers game Sunday night. So obviously that's a big game for multiple reasons, but let's work toward that because you were in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken.
Dang, putting my business out there. Yeah, I was out there.
You put your business out there. What do you want from me?
Who knows? I tell Ben something off air, and then all of a sudden it comes on air, and I don't know if I approved it. But yeah, I was in Cancun, laying in the sun, chilling, relaxing. Some well deserved rest and relaxation for myself.
Well, I agree. It is well deserved, but you haven't been on Green Bay game day with me the last couple of weeks, so maybe I'm pulling a Ben Bruss by putting your business on the streets. But we haven't been able to talk Packers, so that's why I wanted to get together today and hash it out a little bit before we do Green Bay game day Sunday prior to the Kansas City Packers game. But I am fascinated by the turnaround of this team, Kyle. I really thought this was going to be kind of a maybe not 4-13, but 6-11 type year. And it seems like all of a sudden, whoa, this is a playoff team. They're hitting their stride at the right time. What's your takeaway, Ben, of the last couple of wins over the Chargers and the Lions on Thanksgiving? And what are your expectations now, and how have they changed maybe since the last time you and I caught up?
Honestly, I could not imagine the Packers winning 3 of their last 4 games the way they did. I understand after the Rams game, we thought they could win, but we were kind of down on them because of what they had done before, what they had showed us. And when they beat the Rams, though it wasn't impressive, the one takeaway you can get from that is they won a football game, right? That was the big thing. Can the Packers finally win a football game? Yes, they were able to do that. But then to go and back that up and win again, and then compete against the Steelers, or I should say compete against the Steelers, and then go beat the Chargers, and then to go and destroy the Detroit Lions, what we have seen is we've seen growth. We've seen the thing that we wanted so bad in the first 6 weeks to see this team take a step forward, and finally seeing this team take a step forward, even to the point where we see the Packers get a lead late against the Chargers, and then their defense actually step up and make a stop to help secure the victory, to follow that up with your offense starting off the way that it did, to be up, I believe it was 21-6 at half or 21-3 at half, whatever it was, to be up like that against Detroit, a team that literally ran down your throat, demoralized you at home in Lambeau Field, and let you know they were the top dog in the division, to bounce back on Thanksgiving Day, the most ever watched Thanksgiving Day game, to have no Aaron Jones. We already know there's no David Bakhtiari, to have no Jair Alexander. And I'll say this, Rasul Douglas, to have no Rasul Douglas who you traded away, to go into Detroit and to win that football game was very impressive. And for me right now, this is why I believe this team is going to be a playoff team, because the biggest thing is anything in life. Skill is a lot, but also having confidence. Confidence can make you play a lot better than what you really are, because of the fact that you truly believe that you belong here. And the Packers proved last week against the Lions that they believe that they belong amongst the elite. Now, they know they're not an elite football team, but they believe they're a good football team. Remember Strouf when they talked about after their bye week, oh, we're going to look like the Miami Dolphins. We're going to look like the Miami Dolphins. And then they look like a JV football team. But here's the thing. The last couple weeks, especially last week, the trickery that we have, the scheming, the play call is like, this seems unique. This seems creative. They look more like the Miami Dolphins. Now, I mean, it's your broke Miami Dolphins, but it still looks more like the Miami Dolphins than the Green Bay Packers of week 3.
I mean, you're right. I tend to agree with that last part, but they do look like a completely rejuvenated football team. And, you use your kind of marks, right? Like I have 3 when it comes to championship teams. You got to be good. You got to be lucky. You got to be healthy. I don't know if the Packers are any of those 3 things, but they certainly look like all 3. At least they did on Thursday against the Lions. So that's why I'm so intrigued about what's to come Sunday night against the Chiefs, because the way, number one, they started that game against Detroit, they punched them in the mouth right from the gates. Offensively, they look completely in check. And one guy you didn't mention, Kyle, Luke Musgrave, the starting tight end, didn't play on Thursday either, right? So you're without your top back and your top tight end.
And Tucker Kraft stepped up.
Tucker Kraft stepped up, absolutely, but a lot of these young guys are. And I've been saying for a few weeks now, I'm finally understanding the plan that Brian Gutekunst put into place. This youth movement that I was very critical of is starting to make sense. And I think it might be making sense faster than even he anticipated as they're beating one of the best teams in football on Thursday. So this is fun all of a sudden, where I thought this was going to be a really shitty and sad year. It's become a really fun year in really quickly, a really fast turnaround.
And what I love about this is I think about last season, right? When you have expectations of being successful, a year becomes stressful. Now, this year we had lower expectations, but we still, as Packers fans, want to win every game. We want to look good. We want to have something to feel good about. when I look back to last year, it was so frustrating because you had Aaron Rodgers and you had a team that you actually hope could potentially win a Super Bowl. That was the ultimate goal. Now, we could have been dumb to think that based off the receiving core that they had, but as Packers fans, we always believe we have an opportunity. Coming into 2023, that completely changed. All we wanted to see was growth. So for me, actually seeing a 5-6 football team take steps in the right direction is a much more fun season than what I had to deal with last year with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers were 8-9 last year, and I was disgusted by their performance. This year, the Packers they were 8-9, right?
Yeah, you got it.
And so this year, if the Packers finish 8-9, I would be so happy because of the fact of the prospects for what could be the following year. So I feel like this season, especially the way they have played the last 4 games, I'm a lot more optimistic for what could come. I'm now back on the Jordan Love train.
I love it, dude. Yeah, you and I are very much in the same camp. I think going into the season, despite what the Chicago game in week 1 did to our expectations of Jordan Love and this team, I think we were anticipating a more fun season despite records. Right? Because I think there was so much mystery. There were so many question marks that you didn't know how they were going to go. And in our defense, right, the first half of the season was not very fun.
It was misery. You said mystery. It was misery.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right? It was misery some weeks, but then some weeks there would be these flashes, including week 1 against Chicago, where you're going, okay, maybe this will work better than we anticipated. And then you've got some doozies in there. The first Detroit game that you and I went to together. I mean, that was one where I go, whoa, maybe this will be a weird year. And then they respond the way they did on Thanksgiving. I don't even know what this team is, but it seems like they're good all of a sudden, maybe.
But here's the thing, though. Like, if we go back to after that Thanksgiving, if we go back to after that game against the Thursday night game against the Detroit Lions, the first one in Lambeau, after that game, we're like, okay, the Lions are good. We're not that good. Okay, we're back down to reality. We know who we are. But we talked about when it comes to week 12 and Thanksgiving against the Lions, this is an opportunity for us to gauge how much growth this team has made. And if you would have said after that game, the Packers would lose to the Lions by a touchdown, but it'll be a competitive game, you would have applauded that and said, oh, that's great. But the Packers to perform the way that they did, now we should all be ecstatic about this. I truly believe that this team actually believes in themselves. And as they get ready to play against the Chiefs, I really think that this is going to be a close game. I feel like this team is finding their identity, finding themselves, finding their confidence. They believe in their quarterback. They believe in their coach. They believe in the organization. So that's why, as a Packers fan, I'm so excited right now for what's to come for the rest of the year.
I'm glad you used the term belief, because we do a segment on Green Bay Game Day that I kind of wanted to hash out a couple of right now called Who Do You Trust? And I feel like our tune has changed a lot in the last 3 weeks of who we do trust. So I think you and I would be in agreement. We do trust Matt LaFleur, the head coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, what about a guy like Joe Barry? Do you trust Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator? Because the defense seemingly has turned it around, but I don't know that I can trust him ever.
See, Joe Barry's like the one friend in the group that kind of hangs around, but he kind of shiesty. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's showing you some flaws in his character. And so you're like, well, I've known you kind of a long time. We go way back. Because him and Matt LaFleur go way back. And, they do some good things, and you want the good things to outweigh the bad, but you kind of always remember what the bad is. And you just say, you know what, you're just a shiesty dude. And you're always reminded at certain instances. And trust me, the Packers have a very winnable schedule for the remainder of the season, but there's going to be times where shiesty Joe Barry is going to pop up and that defense is going to fail you. And you're going to be like, my goodness. So here's my thing. As we talked about, this season is all about Jordan Love and figuring out if he is the quarterback for the future. These last games that Joe Barry has, this is an opportunity for him to basically coach for his job. I do not believe that Joe Barry has done enough to prove that he should be here. No, let's not. The Packers have an opportunity to build something special. Joe Barry has shown that he is not an elite defensive coordinator. He's never had a special defense. And so my thing is, if there is a defensive coordinator that becomes free, a head coach gets fired, or an elite defensive coordinator, you have an opportunity to go get them, the Packers must always be looking to get better. Joe Barry is an average defensive coordinator. If you can get better, you get better. Joe Barry is not the reason why this defense is excelling. They're just excelling off pure talent. They're not even excelling.
I tend to agree with 100% of what you just said, Kyle. But the thing you have to keep in mind, though, is Matt LaFleur is loyal to a fault. That's the one thing he has proven in his several years as the head coach now. I just don't see how you can look at 2023 as a whole, at least through through 11 games with 6 remaining, and say, yeah, Joe Barry has put out multiple fireable offenses, which he hasn't really since that Detroit game on Thursday night, the first one where David Montgomery looked like prime Barry Sanders. I don't know that he has had a fireable game since that one. So
the Steelers did rush for 200 yards on this one.
Right. I mean, you're right about that. But I look at Joe Barry and I'm like, I don't know that he's done enough to get fired, because I think Matt LaFleur is too loyal. And that's one part where I'm like, I think his job is safe at this point, because they've already overperformed.
Do you get gauged on not doing enough to get fired, or do you get gauged and judged on how well successful your team is? And I know Joe Barry, top 10 scoring defense. It's just, for me, Joe Barry needs to show that he can make this defense exceptional, because Jordan Love is not going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's not. And teams that win championships typically have an exceptional defense. And the Green Bay Packers have flashes of being a very good defense, but they don't have consistency of showing that they can be a very good defense. And the last thing you want to be in is in a situation next year where you make the playoffs and maybe you get a first round bye. You probably won't get a first round bye the way it's set up now. You're not going to get a 1 seed. But maybe you win your first playoff game. You get to the second playoff game, and you lose a 42-38 game or something like that, and the defense looks terrible, and we're all looking at Joe Barry. That's what you do not want. If you do not trust that Joe Barry can embed some type of identity in this defense and give you the confidence that players like Rashawn Gary will continue to pop, Kenny Clark will continue to pop, players like Carrington Valentine will continue to develop. You could coach these guys up. Lucas Van Ness, the D-line, the young D-line, and all those guys. If all those guys pop at the end of this year, as they have, then okay, I'll probably keep him, because that shows player development. But he better show that this defense could be elite, or we need to move on, because we need to find somebody that can make sure that this defense is a strength of this team.
Yeah, given the investment level, right? I mean, Brian Gutekunst has only made one offensive selection in the first round of the NFL draft, and that is the quarterback Jordan Love. Every other first-round pick he's made, dating back to Jair Alexander, now all the way up to Lucas Van Ness, has been defensive, except Jordan Love. So there was a ton of high-level investment on that defense, and it should be performing now. We are several years into the both Joe Barry and obviously several more years into the Brian Gutekunst regime, where this defense should be maybe the biggest strength, given how young the offense is. So I'm with you, but to your earliest point there, like I think you and I gauge it a lot differently than Matt LaFleur does. Matt LaFleur has to make a business decision. You and I are making probably irrational but reactionary decisions.
But he just can't wait too long to make this decision. You can't get to a point where
could you make the argument he's already waited too long?
Yeah, he has. He absolutely has. Again, I'm not going to be fooled by these ups and the downs. Like last week was spectacular. What the Packers did defensively was phenomenal. If Kenny Clark can play like that every single game, if Rashawn Gary can just continue to pop and be a menace like that until the other guys come along, then you have something there. I just do not have faith in Joe Barry based off what he has shown me. This defense has failed the Packers way too often, and I'm telling you right now, we do not want to be having this conversation in the playoffs of 2025 or 2026, talking about, boy, oh boy, the defense failed us again. Jordan Love and that offense, they were able to get us there, but that defense failed us again. We don't want to have that conversation. And if Joe Barry's the person you're having the conversation about, everybody's going to point the finger at Matt LaFleur, saying he should have been gone after 2022.
You're preaching to the choir, dude. Really well said. So in recap mode, you're back on the Love train. You trust Jordan Love.
People all over the world, join hands.
Start a Love train. You trust Matt LaFleur. You think this is a playoff team, which in turn, I believe, means your entire show, Kyle Bruston Nortman, will be jumping into Lake Michigan if they make the playoffs.
So about that, you never once heard me say I was jumping in Lake Michigan. I never once said that I was in Mexico in the sun. I was the complete opposites. Y'all was talking about. They were talking about me jumping into the lake. I'm jumping into
like that, Kyle. You can't leave your guy stranded like that.
I'm jumping into oceans that's 80-something degrees, and y'all back here in Milwaukee talking about jumping into water that's 30 degrees. Do you see the difference in that? And so here's my thing: is we're still in negotiations, and I am pondering, and I want the team to do it. I support. Right now, I got a brand new phone because I'm going to record them going into the water. I'm down for that. But here's the thing: I am soft on charity and soft on giving back. And so right now we're thinking about if we're able to fundraise like at least $5,000, I may be willing to join the KBN Nation for the Green Bay playoff plunge. That might be something. I mean, it's not like this is we're jumping into cold water. I'm not just jumping into a bathtub. No, this is cold water. Like this is gonna be freezing cold, and like my health is. I should be concerned. I'm an old man, a young old man, but
not that old.
Thank you, Strouf. Yeah, I appreciate that coming from a 21-year-old. But or should I say 18? Are you 18? I'm sorry. I aged you.
Yeah, I can't legally drink yet. You're right.
But my thing is this: it's a great opportunity for KBN and KBN Nation to celebrate the Packers making the playoffs. And I would love to jump in, but it's gotta be for a good cause. And I love the Packers making the playoffs being a good cause, but I also love money going to a charity be an even better cause. So that if there's some charitable component, which we're working on, I will join KBN and jumping in.
I love your thought on that. If you do it, I will join you. So I think it's hilarious. I'm also scared we're overreacting a little bit. Like that's my thing with the Packers, because I did this at the beginning of the season after the Bears went. I was like, yeah, this team's gonna be awesome. They're gonna be a playoff team. They're gonna win the division. And then we came back to earth. And now they won a couple of games maybe they shouldn't have against the Chargers and the Lions. How good is this team? I really don't know.
They won 3 of their last 4 games. That's so impressive. They won more games in the last 4 weeks than they did in the first 6 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season. Like that's impressive. That is what the only
there's
you should
no
be just.
There's growth. There's no doubt there's growth.
Yeah, and look at their schedule. Like there is, to me, the reason why I felt like if they beat the Detroit Lions, they're going to the playoffs. Is because who the Detroit Lions are. You know what I'm saying? Like we were struggling to beat the Oakland Raiders, which we did not beat them. We barely beat the New Orleans Saints. We lost in Atlanta. To see a team go from losing to these average teams to beating a team like Detroit, competing against a Steelers team that is flawed, but you're in Pittsburgh, to see them competing in that game, I mean, you're one drive away from potentially being 4-0 in your last 4 games.
True.
This is impressive. We are going in the right direction. Now, we can't crown them, but my expectation is that they continue to go in the right direction, and that confidence from beating the Lions I think will launch them into the playoffs based off what Seattle has to play coming up and based off what the Vikings have schedule-wise. I think maybe even 8 games may get you in, but 9 wins is definitely there for the taking for the Green Bay Packers.
I like to think I'm optimistic. That is a healthy Wednesday dose of optimism from Kyle Wallace, from Kyle Bruston Nortman. You can catch him every weekday, 2 to 5 on ESPN Wisconsin, as well as Sunday before the game with me on Green Bay Game Day from Green Bay. Kyle, always good catching up with you, bro. We'll talk to you on Sunday, all right?
I love talking to Mr. Irrelevant himself, Alex Strouf, baby. We'll see you on Sunday. Go Pack, go.
Well, I mentioned it a few times there, but I'll remind you now, Sunday, 4 o'clock prior to Kansas City. All right, thanks again to Kyle Wallace for kicking it with us for a few minutes. Good conversation with him on all things Packers and leading up to Sunday's game. How about that report? Kyle's got sources. Taylor Swift intending to be in Green Bay. I don't know how much stock I put into it, but I do trust Kyle. So hopefully we get a Taylor Swift sighting. If I see Taylor Swift on Sunday, I don't know how I'll react. I think I'll be excited. I do not by any means think I will be the most excited, though. So anyway, we will keep an eye on that leading up to Sunday. All right, time now as we wrap up every show with what Strouf learned. You learn something new every day. So did I today, and I'm pretty jacked up about this story because it was one of the most wild occurrences I've ever seen take place. So we park in a 5-story garage here at the Everlight Solar Studio, 5-story garage. I usually park on somewhere between the 2nd and the 3rd floor just because I get here a little bit later than your 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. people. I got here about 10 o'clock today. And I pulled in from one of the 2 entrances. So I pulled in from the side entrance, and I kind of have to go through. And I pull in behind from the other entrance a production truck for a local area production company. There's an event going on next door. We're located next to the Sylvia concert and event venue next door. And there's an event going on. I assume that's why the production company was pulling into the garage at 10 a.m. Now, when you pull into drive-throughs or parking garages, there's usually like how do you even explain it? More like a post thing that hangs from the ceiling that says clearance 7 feet is what this one says. Clearance 7 feet. So I am behind in my Ford Focus, much shorter than 7 feet. I am behind this big ass production truck, and it smokes this thing that's hanging there that says clearance 7 feet, and a bunch of snow falls off the top of this production truck. And I'm like, oh boy, this is going to get weird. So I'm directly behind this thing now. and they are going as slow as molasses, as your grandma may have said at one point in time. And every pillar it passes, more snow falls off. And then we get to the second floor, and there's a big pillar there, and it's lower than the other pillars that it was just hitting. I was like, oh my God, the roof of this truck's about to come off. The roof of the truck did not come off, but the entirety of the snow pretty much comes off, lands right in front of my car. And then they just stop. So I pull a random and I keep driving, but I go slow because I'm watching in the rear view what's going on. They throw it in reverse, and all the snow starts going onto their windshield now. So what I learned is that parking garages do not lie, and drive-throughs do not lie. Clearance, real thing. I always thought it was fake. I always thought it was a scare tactic. It's not a scare tactic. It's real. A production truck screwed up big time in the parking garage. All right, we'll preview Badgers Marquette coming up on Friday's episode. Big one at the Kohl Center on Saturday, as well as preview Packers Chiefs Sunday Night Football. Mahomes and Love coming up on Sunday at Lambeau Field. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that conversation coming up on Friday. We'll have a Marquette related guest. It's between a couple right now, but we'll make it a good one for you on Friday. Appreciate you as always for hanging out with us. Big thanks as always to Kyle Wallace and Hunter Vaughn for helping out, elevating the show, and Hunter Vaughn specifically elevating his voice at me earlier today. But he's happy to see me, and I'm happy you chose to hang with us on your Wednesday. We'll talk to you on Friday. That'll do it for us. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll talk to you on Friday.